Hello, everyone. Oh, I am washed out. Let's try and fix that, shall we? I am trying something totally new here. Well, not totally, because I've been doing live videos, but it is new at this hour of the day. For those of you who have been following me for a while, you know that I am an extreme night owl. I always have been, I always will be. And so I am going to try something new and do a I was thinking I should call it something like midnight musings or something like that because it is 12:36 a.m. right now. And that is when my brain is at its best, believe it or not. I have definitely a neurodiverse brain. I have inattentive, so I think that's actually really common with those of us with inattentive ADHD is our brains are at their best at night. So anyway, I actually am doing this with my ring light. Try not to be too washed out here. Anyway, so I am covering, as you guys saw yesterday, I covered the topic of racism. And if you have not seen that one already, I encourage you to head on over to my channel and check that one out. This one is an unrelated to racism topic, but something that is just as heavy on my heart for different reasons. If any of you have any sort of awareness of the YouTube world at all, you are probably aware of Myka and James Stauffer. They have or had at this point, I should like 3 or 4 YouTube channels between them, something like that. And they had enormous growth on their channel when they adopted their son Huxley from China when he was, I believe, 2 years old. And he has a lot of special needs. He is autistic, and I'm not even entirely sure if I know the full extent of it because I have not followed these people that close. I've been on YouTube for 6 years now, and I have been aware of this family, and I, have occasionally watched a video of theirs now and then. Um, yeah, they this is the thing you get with live is you get all my ums and uhs, so sorry about that. But I think they struck me from the beginning, ever since I was aware that they existed, as kind of narcissistic people, like really seeking out attention um, for all the wrong reasons. Like it seemed like she was just jumping on every single YouTube bandwagon there was. It's like, try this diet, try that diet. And then she was doing like bodybuilding and like showing her body in these skimpy little bikinis and like clearly for views. And not that that in and of itself is wrong, but uh, it just was very. I just want to say it smelled very much of narcissism, and they have this very picture perfect, literally picture perfect. They're huge on Instagram as well. Everything is perfectly polished. Everything looks just right, and it's like syrupy sweet. And we all know that nobody's actual life is actually like that. So red flag going off in my head, which is why I never really followed them that much. I'm like, I get a little bit of a kind of feeling from them. And I've been, that's been for the last 6 years that I've been on YouTube and have been aware of them. Now that's what I was saying. They had an enormous spike in their family channel, and was it her family channel or her personal channel? But when they started this whole adoption of Huxley process from China. Now, for those of you who don't know, at that point, I believe they already had 3 biological children. And she explains in all of her videos leading up to that it's very difficult to find children to adopt when you already have 3 biological children, at least when you're going through regular agency. Um, and so she was, like, seeking to find the best way possible to get a child, get her hands on a child, which sounds bad putting it that way, but now that we know what we know, maybe it's not that far off. Um, so she made tons of videos that were sponsored, meaning there were huge, big companies paying her big money to put these videos about Huxley up on the internet. And this was even before they had even adopted him. So, like, they didn't even have legal custody of him yet, and yet she was putting out all of this information about it, which is important to note later because she claims that now all of a sudden that they're getting all this backlash, they need privacy. Clearly she didn't seem that interested in privacy until now, like, at all. She was clearly seeking all that attention. Um, so channel exploded because of this little boy, because that's what she was featuring on her channel. Like, he was one that made their channel explode because of the sympathy factor, I think, and just like the human interest factor, people saying like, "Oh, isn't that so awesome?" Like the savior complex kind of thing going on, where people are like, "That's so amazing what they're doing for that child." And okay, before I get any criticism about that, really think that adoption, even international adoption, can be an incredible thing. One of my closest friends was adopted internationally as a baby, and I actually have a couple of friends who have adopted as well. So, but they were all in it for the right reasons, not for getting clout, so to speak, getting the notoriety for it. So, if I lean back, I'm not quite so I can move my light back here. Sorry, we get all the unedited stuff when I am live. That's a little better there. Okay, um, so she made all of these videos, like solely about Huxley. He was featured in all of their vlogs. Obviously, tons and tons, like thousands, hundreds of thousands of people flocked to their channel to see Huxley. And she would, like, in her videos say, "If you're here for the Huxley content," as if he is some kind of commodity. It just rubbed me the wrong way how she would say that. Like, we're talking about a human being here, not like a product. um, and so, yeah, if you look back at all of her videos about that, um, I should suggest a channel to you guys. If you have been watching all of the stuff on YouTube about this, you probably found this gal. Her name is Katie, and her channel is called Without a Crystal Ball. I can link it in the description when I'm done here. But she goes into much more detail than I'm going to go into in this video. But she's actually had people who have known the Stoffers reach out to her, and she's been communicating with them and stuff. But anyway, that's all the background and everything. So we know that he was special needs, that he had autism, that they were doing all of these therapies and everything for him. And she claimed well before she adopted that they knew everything or almost everything, and that she had been a registered nurse, and she felt comfortable with any sort of need that they would get. She felt comfortable taking care of that. At least that's what she said. And that, she just wants to be, give this kid a mama and be his mama. And she says that a lot. And it just rubbed me the wrong way. And, but that said, kids with special needs are a lot of work. But she went into this claiming she knew that, And she said something like, oh, well, of a list of like 100 different conditions, we were okay with 99 of them. Clearly, she wasn't. So, anyway, so fast forward to last week or whenever it was, I saw a video pop up in my YouTube feed saying that Huxley had been rehomed. And I was like, what? Like, I remember, this was the thought process I had, is like, I remember watching these guys. Like, I loved that little guy. He seemed like such a sweet little boy. And rehoming, like, what? What happened? um, and okay, before I go any further, I should also say, as I have in my title, that I am an autism mom myself. My son has level one autism, which is a different level autism that Huxley supposedly has. But there are a lot of aspects of autism that are very real in our lives that I understand. Um, and I understand a lot of the ways that they can be very difficult. So this is not just me, some random, well, I am some random person on the internet to you guys, but for me personally, um, this is not just some like random commentary. Like, it's personal to me because our son is autistic. So, um, so that's just a little background of where my perspective is on that, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. So anyway, so I saw this, like, he was rehomed, and I'm like, what the heck? Who, what? Like, who rehomes their child? Sounds like a dog. And mind you, like, this child had been with them for 2.5 years, I think it was. It was like 2 to 3 years, something like that. So that's a long time. And I do want to give the benefit of the doubt. And I always want to, reserve judgment until I have all the information and everything. And obviously, I don't know these people personally. And so take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm taking what I say with a grain of salt. um, but you do have to keep that in mind. But let's see, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Um, so yeah, I was then like looking into um, what are some reasons that does that actually happen? That's what I was going to say. There are actually reasons sometimes when adoptions don't work out, and like legit reasons that they don't work out. And I have no judgment in like very legitimate, serious situations. I I have known actually of some people in our lives where it did work out, but it was very close that it didn't, for many reasons that were outside of their control. Like, um, it was adoption, and it had to do with like the, total non-transparency of the adoptive agency from the country that they were adopting from. And there was just a lot of things that went really, really wrong. And so that one almost didn't work out. So sometimes things don't work out. There are situations where special needs are so severe and parents didn't know fully what they were getting themselves into. And maybe they truly feel deep in their hearts, and it's heartbreaking for them to have to do it. But they just don't have the resources that that child needs. Um, Usually that kind of thing is figured out much more quickly than 2 or 3 years, though. Um, this happens sadly, it happens often in the foster system. Um, and it happens with like full up adoptions as well. But there usually when something like that happens where it's like a dangerous situation, like the child is a danger, like a legitimate danger to I actually know somebody else who's dealing with that kind of situation right now too. And it's not easy. Um, but it does happen where, for the safety of the people in the household, the child has to go where they can be cared for at a higher level of care. And those things happen, and I don't have any judgment when things like that go on. Um, all of the situations like that I know, those people were not on YouTube. Nobody knew about it except their closest friends and family. Um, it was not being out and shared for the world to see. And I think that's the case with most of, you know, these adoption situations that don't work out. People are not going into it for all the wrong reasons. They're going into it for the right reasons. And then they have very real reasons for it to not work out. However, in this situation, this genuinely does not strike me as that kind of situation. Um, they just like I said from the very beginning, even before they had Huxley, I had seen some of their content and I just really got strong narcissism vibes. Um, and so that in and of itself is a major red flag. And um, let's take a moment to talk about narcissism. This is actually something you guys may not know about me, but I have a special interest in learning about psychology. I didn't officially study I was a philosophy major in college. um, and I took some psychology classes in college, but I am not like an expert. It's not my field. However, I do spend an awful lot of time just learning about psychology just because I am so fascinated with why people are the way they are. I think it's just fascinating why people are the way they are. Um, and so one thing that I have read a lot about and like watched videos from a lot of professionals that have channels on here, that kind of thing. I've learned a lot about narcissism and its traits and the different kinds of narcissism. And I am just now highly aware of what narcissism is and what it looks like. It is so plain as day to me how so many cases of exploitation, like perhaps this case, cases where there is some kind of like emotional or verbal abuse going on, kind of like manipulative kind of abuse going on. Um, that kind of thing is usually being fueled by narcissism. I have seen it over and over now that um, I am so aware of it, and I have actually had a number of friends realize, you know, that they are in or had once been in a relationship with somebody who was narcissistic, and it made everything make so much sense. How they were always like questioning their reality and like thinking it was them, you know, when clearly there was something like really, really wrong, but they were thinking it was their own fault. Gaslighting, that's what narcissists are best at. Never taking, they never take responsibility for themselves. It's always, you know, if there's something negative, it's somebody else's fault. If it's something positive, they take credit for it. um, and it's hugely problematic. Now, just to break it down a little bit, I won't spend too much time talking about this because I could go on and on. There's so much to learn about narcissism, and it's really enlightening. I suggest you learn about it if you are interested. I think it could really benefit with a lot of the problems that we have in society because I think a lot of the problems that we have in society can often be stemmed back to narcissism. Anyway, but there are two main types of narcissism. There is grandiose narcissism, which is like um, the. I'm debating whether I should put this on the internet. I'm going to do it. The president of the United States is clear example of grandiose narcissism. Very much clear, like I am the best. Like everybody knows that. Like even in the face of um, clear evidence against that. um, and And there are lots of like movie stars and whatnot that are like that as well. You think of people like Tom Cruise and um, who are some of those other abusive um, Hollywood people? What's that? Russell Crowe, he's another one. There are some of these people who are clearly like grandiose narcissists. Oh, what's that other guy who was like went absolutely crazy on set and they had to kick him off? I can see his face. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen. He's another example, very clear example of what happens when you mix narcissism with drugs. um, so yeah. So you can also see a theme here that wait, let me talk about the other kind and then I'll come back to that. So there's grandiose narcissism and then there is covert narcissism. And that is the one that people are less aware of, I think. It's because it's much more subtle and insidious. With covert narcissism, it is much more, it presents itself in, oh, wasn't that so kind of me to do? Or sometimes it can be in a negative light as well, like I have the worst problems in the world. Nobody's problems are as bad as my problems. I have it worse than everybody else. Therefore, I deserve special attention. That kind of thing. Um, and just attention seeking in those kinds of ways of either, like look at these good things that I'm doing for everybody else, or my life is the hardest life in. um, And anyway, but what's common with both of them is manipulation and gaslighting, which is when you make the person who is on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse um, make making that person question their reality. And it's like a psychological manipulation where that person starts to question themselves and they start to think that they are the problem rather than the abusive narcissist. So, anyway, I could go on and on about narcissism, but this would be a forever really long thing. So, I just highly recommend. I think it's important knowledge actually for everyone to have about narcissism because so many of the world's problem people, I really think are suffering from narcissism, and that needs to be recognized and preferably treated, although it's oftentimes the hardest type of psychological disorder to treat because obviously they think nothing is wrong. They have the very best life, and anybody who claims otherwise, it's defamation. Um, trying to you know, make them look bad or whatever. Clearly, there's nothing wrong. It's not me, it's you. So, anyway, so definitely look into that. All that said, I can really see a lot of those traits in Myka Stauffer. It could, I actually don't know. I haven't watched her husband as much. I know he has his own like car channel or detailing channel or something like that. I've never watched his videos before. I'm not as sure if he is also a narcissist. Um, when there is a narcissist in a couple, it's either both of them are narcissists or one of them is a narcissist and the other one is an enabler to the narcissist. That's often how the dynamic plays out. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with them. If anything, he is at least an enabler. But Myka for sure strikes me as having these very narcissistic traits. All you have to do is just go back and look at how, oh, that's the other thing, is that especially covert narcissists, they have a mask. They don't. It's called narcissistic personality disorder because they don't really feel like they actually have a legitimate personality of their own. They're kind of like chameleons, and they put on a a mask for how they want the world to perceive them. And this is in their demeanor, in their personality, the way they speak, the way they act, the words that they use, and also their surroundings, their home, their things, the things that they show off. Um, And that mask can change according to the circumstance. And they usually change it according to what will give them the most, what they call narcissistic supply. um, and this is, oh gosh, there's so much to talk about narcissism. So narcissists don't really view other people as, I mean, there's a whole spectrum of it, and it can be in varying degrees, but to some degree, most narcissists view other people as objects, basically, or, like some sort of tool or an appliance. Like, they love other people in terms of what that person can give them, not what they can give that person. And then so they use and manipulate that person to get their narcissistic supply. So they use them as a tool or appliance to give them whatever gains that they are looking for. And when that person stops giving them that, they discard the person. It's awful. The terminology is awful, but this is actually the psychological terms they use, where they literally discard the person in this can actually happen in cycles where they do like smaller discards, where you think of like the abusive boyfriend that, abuses the girlfriend, and she's like, I'm done, I'm leaving. He's like, oh baby, no, please come back. Oh, I was so wrong, blah blah blah, like sweet talking her back. And let me say, I keep using men as the narcissist. It can obviously be women too, hence Myka. um, but doing like smaller discards until they really feel like this person is not giving me what I need anymore. Then they do the final discard, which is usually done in a pretty harsh way. This is like a known behavior of narcissists. So I guess that is a perfect little segue into what just happened with the Stauffer family. Um, Clearly, that is what just happened with Huxley. And it is heartbreaking to me. Like, gosh, I didn't expect to be a little emotional about it. Maybe it's because I am an autism mom and it just can't even fathom. I can't even fathom. She basically discarded Huxley because he was no longer giving her the narcissistic supply that she thought she needed anymore, or it was getting too hard. And so this was like too much work. She can't, at the same time maintain this perfect mask for the world to just look like syrupy sweet and just like, look how nice my life is, guys, just so perfect, just fake. She couldn't maintain that while also caring for a special needs child. She couldn't make that work. So her solution there was to rehome Huxley. And like I said, this is not like a normal situation where there's like an adoption dissolution, or there's one other term when an adoption doesn't work out. This is not one of these situations. He had been there for 2 or 3 years, and it was just getting too hard for her. And meanwhile, she made, I don't even know how it's all calculated, but they are net worth at multi-million dollars. And she was complaining about how expensive his treatments were. And she was trying to get him into cheaper treatments. Oh, let's rewind a bit here as well. The whole adoption was funded by her subscribers. She did a GoFundMe to pay for his adoption while they were already making all the subscription money and everything for it. It's not like they couldn't afford it. They clearly could. Yet her subscribers were the ones who paid for his adoption through a GoFundMe. And now look what happened. I just have no words. Excuse me, frog in my throat. So, um, yeah. So he went and this sweet, innocent little human being made her all this money, and then it was getting too hard, so uh, out he goes. Now, let's shift gears a little and talk about my perspective on this as an autism mom. I fully grant that having a child with autism absolutely is hard sometimes. It is genuinely hard sometimes. And I am not, if this was a different kind of situation, I would probably have a lot more sympathy. But going into this, I feel that having a child with autism, it is hard. It is really hard. And I feel like we have like the easier end of things. Like my son doesn't have a lot of like physical, he does have like braces for his legs because he toe walks. He has glasses. But other than that, he doesn't have a lot of like extra physical needs, which it sounds like Huxley did. Um, and Huxley, I think they said he was like a level 3 autism. My son is a level 1 autism. Um, but it is still hard day to day. I mean, for those of you who are new to my channel, I have talked about our whole autism, excuse me, our whole autism journey with our son, and I will link that up in the cards if you want to know all the details about that. We have chosen to talk about that, and with our son's permission, he's okay with it. And we just talked to him about we're putting this information out there for other people who might have autism and for other parents who have autistic kids, and maybe we can help them. And he really likes that idea. So that's why we put information about his autism out there. Not at all because we're trying to seek attention from it. All along, we have put it out there just because it might help somebody. Like we're having these experiences, maybe other people are having similar experiences. And maybe the things that we have tried might help with other people, Excuse me. So that's also just like a difference in terms of being exploitative of a special needs child. I mean, children in general. There are some people making these videos saying like all family vloggers should just get off of YouTube. It's all of it is exploitative. And I just want to address that. And I don't think that that is true. For us, like I said, that is the reason we put videos about autism out there. We do put family vlogs out there, and they aren't that popular, which is fine with me because that's not why I am putting them out there. We just have them for our family memories, and if somebody else happens to enjoy them, then great, but they're truly not that popular. I think it's possible for people to have, genuine motives in having a family YouTube channel. But that said, there is the other end of the spectrum as well. And like I was saying about like people in Hollywood who, tends to attract a lot of narcissists. I think that that is probably true for a lot, sadly, for a lot of family YouTubers out there. I can think of a few off the top of my head, but I'm not here to, you know, bash everyone on the internet. That's not the point of this. But I do see it a lot. They're in like the biggest family vloggers out there. Now, granted, I also know it all. Like, if you've been following for a while, I became friends with Judy from Judy's Life. Our kids went to preschool for a while together. They are the real thing. Let me tell you that. They are the salt of the earth. So there can be, big vloggers out there who are in it for the right reasons, um, and who are not in it just for the profit and the attention and all of that. But unfortunately, it does attract the people who are that reason as well. And I really think that the Stoffers are one of those families. They are in this for the attention. They are in this for their own narcissistic supply, their own gain. Um, and it's just kind of sad. It's just kind of sad. Because in those kinds of situations, the children are the ones who suffer. They are the ones that get the fallout. And especially in this um, particular situation, clearly, one child in particular is getting like the biggest fallout ever. And it's kind of disgusting. Um, so, yeah. So, I was talking about, see, this is my ADHD where I like jump from one thing to another. Let's come back to autism. So, so the things that I say about my son, I am always very careful about the things that I say. Like, I don't share everything by any means at all. There are a lot of things that we do not share. Um, but that said, there are some really difficult things. Like we, especially since we've been in quarantine, even though we homeschool, like the being home all the time, the changing routine, and the fact that I was diagnosed with breast cancer in February. That's a whole other video series that I have on my channel. Things have been a little crazy. Um, and I think all of that change, for kids with autism, change is hard. And we've been getting daily, no, maybe not daily. I'd say 4 to 5 days a week, we've been getting like massive meltdowns, massive meltdowns. Like it's like the worst it's been in a while. We'll just put it that way. It's hard. And but when that happens, my mind doesn't go to, oh, time to go give our son up for adoption. That's not why you have kids. Like the other thing they're claiming is that they didn't know. Oh, like there were a lot of things that were not made clear to them. Well, they said like, well, we're fine with all of these different conditions. We're fine. I can handle it. I'm a nurse, which apparently she actually was only a nurse for like a year or two anyway. I won't get into all that. Oh, and she was kicked out of her job for physically assaulting a pregnant woman at her job when she was a nurse. So there's that too. Um, but what was I saying? See, ADHD brain, it's crazy. But she knew, that's what I was saying. She knew what she was getting into, even if she didn't know all the details. But who does? Who know? Even when you have biological children, you don't know for sure what you're getting. Like that's not why you become a parent. You don't know everything that you're going to get. Like we had no idea that we were going to have a child with autism. Like that wasn't planned. Nobody sent us paperwork ahead of time saying like, oh, your child is going to have autism. And it's like, oh, sorry. Like that's not the reason you become a parent. Um, when you become a parent, you go into it because you are going to love unconditionally whatever child is meant to be yours. And I believe that wholeheartedly. For me, we have a faith. Like, I believe that the children that you have are meant to be your children. And these are the children that God has entrusted to you. And you don't just give up when it's hard. Like, it's supposed to be hard. And it is a refining process that makes you a better human being for having gone through it. So that's why it is just so unfathomable to me that, like, especially this far into it, that they're almost 3 years into it, and like it's getting hard. So see ya, you're not our son anymore. Even after they had said, "Oh, we could never give him up. We could never give him up. He's been having meltdowns, but we would never give him up." Like, well, clearly you did. So, um, yeah. So that's my take on it. Like, if you are genuine about, well, let me rephrase that. You're never prepared for anything. Let's put it that way. You have to be, prepared to be unprepared. Let's put it that way. Now, one last little facet that I wanted to talk about was just adoption. I We have not personally adopted, so that is not something that I am as familiar with. But like I mentioned, one of my very longtime friends was one of 5 children who were all adopted from different countries internationally. Um, and I know their mom really well. And so I've gotten a lot of perspective on that over the years. And it's, I've gotten some perspective of also, getting some very difficult situations as well. And like I said, I've known a number of people who have adopted domestically, adopted internationally. Um, I know some people who are considering adopting now. We went through infertility, and there was a point in time where we were 100% fine. Like if we were unable to have a biological child, um, and that was really where we felt God was steering us. We were 100% on board. Um, Part of me still wishes that I could now, but just given our health and family circumstances, that probably is not going to be a reality for us. Um, but had it been something that God really put on my heart, like I would do it. I would do it. Um, and for hopefully the right reasons. So, um, anyway, there's a whole lot of other videos out there of adoptive parents talking about this whole situation as well. So, I think that is all I had to say here. A couple of notes. Yeah, I think we touched on everything. So, anyway, I'm amazed. I've been on here for 43 minutes and haven't seen any comments. So, for those of you who have made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching this video. It was just something that was really weighing on me because I just feel so much for little Huxley. Imagine, like, he was already torn from his original country into a home where he had some like reactive attachment disorder going on, plus autism, plus physical stuff going on. And he's, plucked from his original country and put with this family who knows honestly how he was being treated behind closed doors. There's the whole controversy about how they had like duct taped his thumb so that he wouldn't suck his thumb while they were allowing their other kids to suck their thumb. Some subtle things like that just kind of make me think, covert narcissism, abuse, borderline. So, who knows what was really going on? I mean, they clearly have this perfect mask that they show for social media. Um, but we will never know what it's like when the camera is turned off. So, um, and then now he was plucked from that family, and I don't know. I don't know what the latest is on all the whole ordeal, if he's in foster care now, or if they had done some sort of like potentially sketchy, like non-official adoption, which if that's the case, then you're like starting to borderline on like human trafficking, because that's what human trafficking is. But we don't know that. Um, at least I don't know enough details to make any sort of claims like that. But can you imagine from his perspective? Like, he's already going to have so much trauma that he has to heal from throughout his life. And now this is one more trauma that he's going to have to heal from. Like, this is serious stuff. Like, human beings are not commodities. They are not appliances. They are not tools. They are not there. Children are not there for what they do for you. Um, it's just, oh my gosh. That is my perspective. I just hope. I was talking with my friends about this the other day, and the silver lining of all this is hopefully after this transition, he will actually be in a home with people who love him unconditionally. Unconditionally. Because that's what every child deserves is unconditional love. Oh, and one more thing. What are her biological children getting out of all this? They see, look, it got hard with this kid. Will mom and dad just give me up if I screw up? Like, is that what they think? Or are they telling the biological kids? Because it is true that narcissists view their biological children as extensions of themselves. So maybe they have told that to the kids, like, well, you're fine because you're our biological children. So you don't have to worry. But then what kind of message is that sending them? I feel like that is setting them up for a life of narcissism themselves because they get this special treatment and they think that they are better than. Um, so many things wrong with this, so many red flags. So that is my perspective. I am hoping that YouTube will give me comments for this one. I have been one of those channels that has hit or miss comments. Sometimes they give me comments right now, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll give me comments and then like a day later they'll take them away. So anyway, I will also post this on my Facebook on the community tab. So if I don't have comments, you can leave a comment there. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in to my midnight musings. So, and if you guys are watching from the replay, maybe tomorrow, hi to you guys as well. So, I hope all is well with you, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.